The games industry is a harsh mistress for a lot of indie developers out there. Trying to get noticed in a sea of other indie games can be more difficult than actually making a good game itself. Sure, you've got to make something that the consumer will want, but even if you do that, that won't be enough in most cases. It's one of the big reasons why I decided to start a YouTube channel. Give games a chance that others may not have, and show a game's strengths and weaknesses and match them up with an audience in question. Look, it may not be bringing in the bills right now, and I may have to change things up after a while, but I will do my best to bring games, especially good games, the light of day that they deserve. For 2015, there were plenty of games that didn't get the sales that I think they should have. That's nothing new, sadly, but this list specifically is to highlight the games that I think deserve more sales and attention than the game got. I'll be using Steam Spy stats as a basis for this, so no game that had more than 50,000 copies will be on this list. And honestly, 50,000 isn't a lot in the big picture. These are games that I played this year and had to come out this year, aka no early access titles. So what games were criminally undervalued in 2015? Let's find out now with my top 10 games that you probably haven't played in 2015. Number 10, ManaCollect. Taking a simple concept and adding a multiplayer element has worked in the past for several video games, and there's no exception here for ManaCollect. It takes the basic idea of Minesweeper and adds a new mechanic or two to add some depth to it. Oh, and it also adds catgirls, because everything is better with catgirls. Everything. Talk to Miss Clan if you want more information on it. But anime tropes aside, it's surprising how much this works on a local multiplayer level. The basic elements of Minesweeper and having to keep track of numbers and positioning is solid, but another layer is added in having to deal with the fact that someone else is doing it right next to you. That puts pressure on the players to keep up the pace but not going too far, as a wrong move can really put you behind the 8 ball. The use of skills in question does add a timely tool to screw with your opponent, throwing you for a loop and causing even more chaos. The puzzle elements still exist in the alternate modes for those who want to play around with the alternate Minesweeper mechanics, and its new wrinkle with the hex formations does do wonders for its gameplay. Look, it doesn't blow up the genre with anything groundbreaking. It won't even sweep you off your feet, but it doesn't need to. It provides a solid game that takes a concept and plays around with its core mechanics and does it quite well, I might add. It doesn't have the budget or the boom that other games have, but if you want a good, challenging local multiplayer game, then ManaCollect does the job nicely. Number 9, Technobabylon. Story-based point-and-click adventure games have gotten a bit more attention thanks to the genre getting a bit of a push from the Telltale games. There's more of them than ever, and while there are some real stinkers out there, I've been impressed with the resurgence of the games in the industry. Anyone who has played the old days of LucasArts games will be reminded of the classic pixel art style here, but Technobabylon cements itself as its own game very quickly. It's got an intriguing storyline as it explores a dystopian future with a computer-assisted Big Brother watching over the city. While yes, that story has been done a bunch of times, it's nice to see the story written well here, and from a couple of different perspectives. Seeing 3 different characters from alternate sides of the conflict helps add to the storytelling, making it clear that things aren't as cut and dry as you may first make them out to be. Dealing with themes of control, self-will, and safety versus freedom, conversations are handled smartly, with each voice actor giving a great performance to give emotion to their characters. The plot will hook you, and you'll want to learn the fate of this world and the mysteries within it. The puzzles also do a great job of mixing things up in most cases. Some of the more complicated puzzles were smartly put together and rewarded people that paid attention without requiring precise memory. Now look, it has some flaws with things blending into the background at times, but that's a rare hiccup for a game that does a lot of things right. Technobabylon shows the strengths of the genre, and in a compelling way. It's definitely worth your time, and Sargon of Akkad would be proud. Not the YouTuber, the ancient Babylon king. Number 8, Jumpjet Rex. It's probably the game that's shown up the most between my videos over at TechRaptor and here, mostly because, hey, it's a good game. And of course dinosaurs, but that's besides the point. But what may surprise you is that I'm not necessarily a fan of the genre it falls into. Okay, look, I love platformers, but speed platformers that specifically have leaderboards? I'm actually not a fan of those, because I like my precise platforming and taking my time, and it usually gets repetitive for me very quickly. But Jumpjet Rex, it broke that trend. The game puts fun first and foremost. Great level design that hits the spectrum of fast and speedy action and slow and precise platforming. Controls that aren't too hard to get used to, but reward you for mastering them. A great ghost system that helps in showing you not only where you may have faltered, but what other people are doing to make their runs faster. A great art style, in the most part, that ranges from the cold tundras to the lush forests. Fun alternatives in boss battles that help change the pace. And rewarding you with different skins and accessories to pimp out Rex with. Jumpjet Rex fills the adrenaline meter and doesn't really let off the gas, burning all the fossil fuels in the process of you having fun left and right. The game will frustrate you, especially in the last third for the precision it wants from you at times, but it wouldn't be a speed platformer if it didn't, honestly. And that frustration isn't enough to take away from the overall experience. Number 7. Enemy. Enemy doesn't exactly have the appeal factor going for it on the get-go. It's got a Minecraft-like look in a genre that isn't exactly the most popular to begin with. In essence, it's already an enemy of the mainstream gaming trends out there. See what I did there? Yeah, clever, I know. But if Enemy proved anything to me this year, it's that looks can be rather deceiving. Because underneath the surface is a game that played rather well, with a combination of several mechanics that help bring the game to new strategy heights. The ability to mess around with the environment, blowing holes into the walls, and causing them to collapse on your enemy was rather refreshing. The reaction mechanic that was similar to XCOM's combat, but that let you deal with the enemy coming into your line of sight was nice. Options upon options kept flooding out in terms of your tactics, and for a player like me, that's a welcome addition. The boss fights that had alternate solutions and provided a bit of challenge was appreciated. Its roguelike and RPG progression and item system worked rather well. Even when you think you have a mechanic down in this game, you get an extra wrinkle to it to add more complexity, like being able to run versus walk when moving your character. Strategy and tactical RPG players may overlook Enemy for games that are more visually appealing, like Shadowrun Hong Kong. But they'd be missing out on combat that seemed to get deeper and deeper as the game went along. You know what's nice about Enemy though? There's a demo for you to try. Yeah, remember those nice little glimpses into what a game's potential could be? There's no reason not to try the demo and see what the game has to offer. And considering what the game could deliver, it's definitely worth a try to see if it's up your alley. Number 6. Runestone Keeper. The perfect game to play while listening to a YouTuber such as, I don't know, myself, so you can watch all the videos. All of them. Okay, shameless self-promotion aside, Runestone Keeper doesn't necessarily require your absolute attention at all times, but it plays well in the roguelite genre. The basic combat and mechanics are simple. Click on an enemy to attack, explore all the tiles, make your way as far as you can down the depths of the dungeon. It's a simple game of managing your health and knowing what to attack and what to leave alone while dodging traps left and right. It's the game that each run gives you a bit more understanding on how to deal with the dungeon's problems and the small changes in mechanics and power-ups that really make it stand out for me. For example, a heart will actually increase your maximum health if you're at full health already. Knowing that, do you search around, trying to get as much health as possible, or do you save it for possible damage you may take in the dungeon? Do you take the ruin that may make your life easier now, but will cause you a bit of problems down the road? Or do you make this run all about getting as much money as possible so you can buy permanent upgrades for your characters? The gold system in particular is nice, as while gold rolls over in playthroughs, it can also be used to buy equipments and items for this run, which may make it easier to make even more gold down the road. As with several other games on this list, the amount of strategies that can come from Runestone Keeper is pretty hefty, and it's the kind of game that you can spend a good amount of time just going through over and over again, and then realize it's 2 AM and that you probably should be asleep. Roguelike fans may give this one a pass due to its simple interface and basic looking mechanics, but they'd be missing a rather deep game when the runes are put on the table. Number 5. Gravity Ghost. The kind of game right up Casper the Friendly Ghost's alley. Gravity Ghost definitely draws people in, with its gorgeous art style that feels almost paper mache-like, and has a touching story about coping with loss to boot. The cutscenes that play out will tug at heartstrings, complemented by a haunting yet soothing set of melodies that will put your mind at ease despite what's going on screen. Like a couple games on this list, Gravity Ghost has a charm factor. It makes you want to play it with all the little elements that come together, like reuniting a ghost with his bones. But don't be fooled, the gameplay is solid as well. There's a simplicity to the game that keeps the gravity mechanics uncomplicated, yet it's always fun to throw around Iona and watch as she lets the pull of the planets affect her motion. The game can be taken at your own pace, although it is fun to try to get through it as fast as you can. The new mechanics of elements are introduced at the right pace to keep the variety of gameplay going. In particular, unlocking the ability to hover and to dive really add to the precise control that is missing from the start of the game, and helps give you something to master later on. These reasonable additions also include terraforming planets. You'll be able to create on-whim bouncing planets that throw you around the galaxy to the momentum-affecting water planets. Now, this game is sadly special in my mind, because it was the focus of a black market key investigation. The developer saw the key they gave away to a YouTuber to promote her game being sold on this black market. To say that this boils my blood would be an understatement, but that's a video for another day. And before you say Polygon, this is the games journalism that is worth a damn. You should read that article, and I'll leave it in the description below. Gravity Ghost, however, is a game that shows its love for the genre and for gamers in general, and does it in a whimsical fashion that not a lot of games can naturally match nowadays. Number 4. Roche Fusion. Shoot 'em ups have come a dime a dozen over the last several years, and yet Roche Fusion found a way to be different. What probably held it back in terms of its low sales was its price tag, but considering that you can pick it up right now for $4 during the Steam Winter Sale, it should be an easy pickup for those shoot 'em up fans that want something with a lot of replayability. The arcade shooter has a good variety of power-ups and enemies that help provide the challenge, but what's a bit more interesting here is the playing field itself. The arena feels a little squashed for some people, but soon they realize that the bullet patterns and area to move work rather well with the different ships and options available for them. A great variety of alternate weapons that have specific strengths and weaknesses also help in allowing for multiple different strategies, ranging from overly aggressive to tank-like defense. There's a good mix-up in the bullet patterns and enemies to keep things fresh, but enough familiarity with them so that you can actually feel prepared going into battle. There's just options upon options here. I also gotta give special mention to the visuals. The developers took into account performance by allowing almost all the different visual options to be turned on and off. The game looks fantastic, and it complements gameplay at almost every turn. I love the UI in particular, which helped illustrate information at times within the field of play, but it didn't become annoying while doing it. Those looking at game design could learn a lot from what Roche Fusion did with pairing visuals with gameplay, as almost every decision here was a smart one. I've mentioned time and time again on this channel that I'm a huge fan of shoot 'em ups, and despite all that I've played over the years, Roche Fusion is in the top 3 that I've ever played. It's a shame it's not gotten the attention that it really deserves, but hopefully you'll give it attention after watching this list. Number 3. Ironcast. Don't overlook the steampunk themed game in the match 3 genre, because you'll miss an addictive puzzle game that takes the simple genre to another level. Now, the game has a good production value with a strong London Victorian setting, and the story and the world is intriguing enough to get your attention as well. But on the level of games like Honey Pop, Ironcast does things a little bit differently in the genre, but does it in a smart way. The smart use of each block type being a part of the different functionality on your mech means you have to balance your evading, your repairing, and your weapon actions while attacking your enemies. Good design decisions with the overload and link nodes that help add to the complexity of battle, meaning it's sometimes better to go for a smaller combo that gives you that node than clearing a larger one. And you can't strictly use one mech function either, as you have to work with the resources the game has handed you, forcing you to diversify and manage your mech. Speaking of, the resource management system, where you have to spend your gained resources on actions, adds even more strategy elements to the game. It's complemented by your chosen upgrades, which can help specialize the different playstyles. There's good risk and reward mechanics that play out with your choices of missions and equipment selection. Pretty much around every corner, you have a choice, and a significant one at that. Honestly, when it comes to a fusion of genres, Ironcast may be one of the best examples of fusing elements between two genres, in this case strategy and puzzle, and making something that truly works in one nice finished package. There's really nothing more that needs to be said about this. Ironcast is great, and you should play it, especially for you Puzzle Quest fans out there. Number 2. Dropsy. Point-and-click adventure games usually work off a strength in writing, as some of the best narratives have come in this genre, being highlighted by some of the great work done by Telltale over the past several years. But even with that said, that's not Dropsy. In fact, the main protagonist himself doesn't say a word. What it does, however, better than a lot of games this year or any year for that matter, is use expression to tell a story. Look, the game is a straightforward point-and-click adventure game, and doesn't do anything gameplay-wise that pushes boundaries. But it doesn't need to. It's got the charm to counteract it. You sit there wondering how you can help these random people, and love to see how they go from possibly being uneasy or hating good old Dropsy, to giving him a nice wet hug. And yes, it's a wet hug for some reason. You'll have a goofy smile on your face as you watch this story play out in the weirdest of ways. And what's fascinating is the underlying themes that the game can have if you look for them. Like I said in my review, it doesn't beat you over the head with its themes like other games of the genre have, but lets scenes and your mind interpret what's in front of you. It's fantastic. I can sit here all day and say the strengths of Dropsy, but let's make it simple. It's very much like the traveling circus. It dazzles and fills you with whimsy while it's around. It may be short for some people, but what's there is filled to the brim, as every encounter and storyline has a substantial conclusion. Dropsy is the cute cat video of the gaming world. You can't help but smile while playing it, and you'll be saying, "Aww," during the entire time you're playing it. Except for this part. This part you'll be wondering what drugs you're on. Actually, this game is a lot like drugs in a whole. LSD in particular, I'm guessing. Number 1. Renowned Explorers International Society. A little bit of a preview. It made my top 10 games of the year. That should say something in itself. But why hasn't it done better in sales? Well, I could tell you exactly why. See, Renowned Explorers International Society is one of those games that's hard to describe. There's layers upon layers of elements within the game, and the game is a sum of its parts. Talking about one part by itself may seem ho-hum at first, that it's not anything too special, but when it all comes together, it comes together brilliantly into a game that will give the meaning of the phrase "just one more run" a run for its money. I've sat here and tried to put how much I love Renowned Explorers into words, and it's really hard to do in a small summary. The game has a bunch of interesting mechanics that all work out together so well. In combat, the mood system is the first mechanic you'll notice. Having to play towards a certain of the 3 major moods, aggressive, devious, and friendly, makes each character's strengths and weaknesses much more obvious, and force you to play off the rock, paper, scissors-like mechanic to get an advantage on your opponent, or work off the mood to take the bonus that it provides. It's then complemented by the emotion system, which acts like status effects and buffs in some ways. A terrified character may have weaknesses that can be exploited, while building up your character's emotions to be excited, for example, could have great buffs that come along with it. Each battle feels like a chess battle, even against the weakest of foes, as any character going down hits your resolve, which, if depleted, means you lose the game. The layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of strategy show themselves with each configuration of 2 side characters and their captain, hoping to work off each other to cover their own issues. The thrill of moving around the main map and using your character's skills such as diplomacy, engineering, and quick thinking will have you gather the resources to improve your characters and your expedition. Each encounter may have multiple solutions, and certain traits are useful with certain challenges in particular, so it can influence which way you go on the map. The supplies mechanic keeps a sense of urgency to complete the mission, but also to explore as much as you can to improve your team. It's complemented by an underrated art style that goes hand in hand with the game in question, with sharp animations and characters that come to life. It's the addictive quality of the game that resonates with me. I found myself, even when making this video, coming up with excuses to do another run, just so that I had more footage to work with, even though I perfectly knew that I had enough. That should say something in itself. Even if at first glance it looks like it doesn't have a lot of content, that's far from the case, as each run feels unique and it never gets boring, at least for me. Renowned explorers will have you telling stories about how you got your latest high score run, optimizing your run by going after certain artifacts that buff your specific character, and makes you feel like you're the next Lewis, Clark, and Sacagawea. The game ensnares you in its grasp, and it doesn't let go. I honestly can't give this game a bigger recommendation. It's a game that screams to be played, screams to give it a try, and I hope you consider picking it up. Because if this is the type of game that the indie scene is going to bring us, we've got a bright, bright future ahead in the industry. So any of these games look interesting to you and you think you may pick them up? Leave your comments in the comments section below. If you like this video, hit that like button, share it with a friend, whatever you would like to do with it. And if you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button. This is Dragnix signing out, and I'll see you with my top 10 games of the year very soon. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button in the middle of the screen. The last video I did will be in the top left, and a related video to this will be in the top right. I do have a Twitter handle at the bottom left and a Facebook page at the bottom right. And of course, you can always subscribe to the Google Plus portion. Anyway, thanks for watching and keep on gaming.